This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. Most any contemporary musical style can trace its roots back to the blues. Time Signatures explores the blues and its musical connections with captivating interviews, lively discussions, and news from the world of the blues.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and this is one of the most exciting episodes I've recorded to date. When I launched Time Signatures a year and a half ago, I set some goals, and at the very top of that list was to have a discussion with today's guest. He's celebrating his 28th #1 blues album debut with Live at the Hollywood Bowl, and that's more than anyone in the blues, my friends. He just recently kicked off his Blues Deluxe tour, paying homage to his best-selling album, Blues Deluxe from 2003. And we're going to talk about these things in a couple of minutes. But today he joins us from Choctaw Grand Theater in Durant, Oklahoma, where he goes on stage in just under 90 minutes from right now. Joe Bonamassa, man, it is indeed an honor to have you here on Time Signatures, sir.
Thank you for having me. I love all the signage. It's you're a man after my own heart, because that is how I roll. I have lots of signs and posters and things on the wall, and I appreciate the patronage. I see the license plate and the Keeping the Blues Alive shirt. I think I see a picture of me back. But thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That's a photo that I took of you in the Fox Theater in last November. We came out there to see you, and I got a press pass, and I was honored. So it was very cool.
And we had Larry come out. We had Larry McRae come out.
Yes, and it was a pleasure to see him out there as well. Joe, listen, I want to get this going because we've got very short time here. How cool is it that you're doing the Blues Deluxe tour right now as we record this episode? Because the album was your biggest all-in moment in 2003, and that work truly was the launch pad for what developed your career, wasn't it?
It was the first album that I did that I think struck a nerve, and it was the right album at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And, the one I did with Tom Dowd never really got the shot because the record company kind of pulled the plug. I was on Sony Music, and it was out for a month and a half, and then they said, we're kind of moving on in a different direction. And it was just, they were kind of shutting down all their roots-oriented stuff. And then the one I did after that was kind of like, well, we did a DVD with that, and it kind of started to get some traction. But Blues Deluxe was like, we were at the end of our tether, and there was no guarantees that any of this was going to work. And so we're like, well, screw it. We'll just make a blues record and make a fiery one and put it out. And we did it for like $10,000, which, it seems like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but for making a record, it's not a lot of money. And we did it for $10,000 in a week and put it out, and it just started to get traction. And to this day, it's a record that still sells in my catalog. And it was produced by my friend Bob Held in New York at Unique Studios. And we did it in the wintertime of 2003, and we had a blast. And basically it was a live show with a couple of new songs thrown in.
Right.
But those were live arrangements, and that was the last record I did that we actually had time to woodshed the arrangements on the road before you going into the studio. Now you can't do that because everything's recorded. People have their phones out, and you can't just go and woodshed this stuff and then turn around and be like, okay, well, we're going to record an album now. It's kind of old news. Right. And then we did volume 2 20 years later. And then now we're on the Blues Deluxe tour, which is just basically the best of the 2 albums and the best of our big blues live adventures, like the Three Kings and Muddy Wolf and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, it's not just straight Blues Deluxe material, but it's everything kind of thrown in, and then a few classics, and 2 hours and 5 minutes, and we're done.
Very cool. Now, your second all-in moment came just a short 6 years later when your manager Roy Wiseman and producer Kevin Shirley booked the legendary Royal Albert Hall in 2009. Now, there's a few poignant moments in that concert that I wanted to ask you about, Joe. starting with that invitation to Eric Clapton. When you looked over that evening and saw Eric coming out of the shadows to join you on stage for that one song, talk about that for a moment. What was going through your mind, man?
Seriously, I was like, I can't believe I pulled this off. I wrote him a letter. And
Yeah.
my friend Paul Stewart, who is the son of a racing legend, Jackie Stewart, was nice enough to get him the letter. And I just was like, hey, man, hey, you don't know me. I met him one time before. And I was like, hey, I have this gig at Royal Albert Hall, May, and I saw he was kind of playing there after us. And I said, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I wrote him a letter. And he responded I left my email, and he responded with his email and be like, I'd, be honored to play. And so he showed up, and when he walked down, I'm like, can't believe I pulled this off. And again, I've said this before, and his social media people reposted an interview with me saying this, and I'll say this again, it bears repeating. I can never repay the debt of gratitude I owe him for what he did. It was the right moment. It was the explosion. It was like we had a can of kerosene, a match, but nobody to ignite it.
Right.
And he ignited it. And then it went boom. And then for the next 15 years, I've never worked harder in the last 15 years. But careful what you wish for. But it was the validation that he gave me that really put me on the map. And that was one of those things for me where I was like, you know what, I can never repay him. How could you? And so that DVD was always going to be our greatest ever, because you can never recreate that moment, because there's only one. It's you're watching a kid's dream come true on a film, literally in real time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I'm at the Albert Hall because of the history he created at the Albert Hall, and he comes out. And, if he played the Marquee Club or the Shepherd's Bush Empire, and that was where he would set up residency and do all those great shows, not only with his solo band, but with Cream, I would have wanted to play Shepherd's Bush, not the Albert Hall. But the fact it was there, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm playing this place to begin with, let alone with the guy who inspired me to work my ass off to get here.
Yes, sir.
Comes out and plays. So, I mean, things happen, and it's important to I always tell people it's important never to put a shelf life on your career, because a lot of people at that point, I was 4 days before my 32nd birthday. And a lot of people say, well, if I don't get where I want to be, or I don't make it before 30, I'm going to, get my real estate license. And I said, well, I never would have got there if I quit at 30.
Right.
And you have to be in it to achieve what you can't just be in it from afar.
Absolutely. Joe, looking back at that iconic evening, one more question about that evening. At what point during the show did you realize that you had arrived, that you had now become fully recognized and respected as part of the blues entertainment community? Because you really did put in the work.
I did, but you don't realize it in real time. The DVD was out for about 6 months before PBS picked it up here in the country. And they started an affiliate in Albany, New York, and they called us and said, hey, we'd like to do a pledge drive with Joe, because he's from upstate New York. And we're like, sure, do what you want. They made an hour edit. Obviously, we did one song, and then Clapton comes on. It actually came on the 6th song, but let's get to the point here. And show business. And they want to raise the money here. And for some reason, that thing just hit a nerve. It was the right product at the time. And next thing you know, we're selling out huge places. And the next thing you know, I'm on the cover of every guitar magazine, going the savior of the blues. And I'm like, I'm not saving anything. I'm just doing what I've always done. But there's a confluence of actions that happen when the right thing and the right person at the right time.
Yes.
And not everybody hits that mark perfectly, but we were able to hit that mark perfectly. And that set me up for the rest of my life.
Lightning in a bottle.
it was lightning in a bottle, but
Yeah.
it's also a lot of hard work. And anybody
Yes, sir.
who says, well, they see all the guitars and the buses and all this nonsense, and they say, well, it's easy street. No, it's hard work. It's
Yes, sir.
you gotta take care of yourself. When I did that DVD, I had a bus and 7 people, including the band, 3 crew guys.
Wow.
Right now, I have 4 buses and 3 semis. There's a little more responsibility now, and 33 people out here. So I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you, it's
Right.
It's the same responsibility. But I have tenured people down the road with me 15, 20 years, and it's like they have kids and they have college payments and they have. So I can't F around. I mean,
Right.
I have a responsibility to my touring family.
Yes, sir. Joe, another serendipitous moment came last summer when you sold out the Hollywood Bowl. Now, I caught an interview with you, and you talked about how you weren't able to sell out a venue that was right across the street, a very tiny venue. And now here you are selling out the Hollywood Bowl. How sweet was that moment for you?
Well, we started at the Mint in 1999 or 2000, and nobody came, like 4 people. And that's on the corner of Crescent Heights, and I believe it is Melrose or something like that, or Pico. I should know that. I've been there 25 years. And it was like 4 people. And over the years we had done well since the 09. I mean, we played the Dolby Theater. We did a DVD at the Greek Theater called The Three Kings, but we never did the Hollywood Bowl. And one of the most satisfying things for me was, and I know it kind of sounds a little morbid, but or at least punitive, is during the summer in the Hollywood Bowl season, if you're driving through Hollywood and you need to get to the 101 North and you go down Franklin and you make a left on Highland because that's where it meets the 101. If you do not know the Hollywood Bowl schedule, I suggest you look it up, because you will run into at least an hour's worth of gridlock going maybe 500 yards past the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh.
And people curse the artists that are there. It's like, Rod Stewart, you cost me. Yeah. And it's like, damn you, John Williams and the LA Phil. How did I not know this? Well, for one, as an Angelino for 25 years, I was the cause of that. And I actually got a bit of a chuckle going, I'm the one causing this crap tonight. And it's it's a bucket list. I mean, somebody who lived in Los Angeles more than half his life, to see that in front of, people, my community and people, my friends, my extended friend network, I was like, it's a pretty big deal for anyone to do it. And, to do it with the orchestra and have these arrangements now. And Kevin Shirley did a wonderful job. It's our top 2 DVD. It's Albert Hall 1 and then the Hollywood Bowl. I mean, it's like to come back 15 years and literally come close to beating it. Is a testament to the kind of work that Kevin put into this, and the people who scored it. David Campbell, Jeff Bova, Trevor Rabin, Calvin Turner, who plays bass in our band. He wrote some of the score for this, and it's really a wonderful testament to the amount of talent that I'm surrounded with, and I'm just really proud of it. And I'm looking forward to. We're going to do another round in. We're going to do a gig next year in the Netherlands where we're going to revisit the orchestra.
Nice.
And it's going to be fun. And
nice.
But now that we have the charts and we have the blueprint, but the hard part was writing the blueprint and getting the path.
Yeah, absolutely. On May 15th in Seattle, you opened for none other than Rolling Stones. I would love to hear about that, but I had one question that was added in from one of our viewers that wanted to know what it was like after you opened for them to stand on the side of the stage and watch them tend their business. What was that day like for you, man?
The Rolling Stones couldn't have been nicer. And Mick was the reason why we're there. He picked us. And they invited me on stage for sound check, which is, I didn't have the right badge. They're like, no, come on. So I sat with Pierre and everybody. And as they come off a sound check and, Mick comes up, hey man, thanks for doing this. I'm like, no. Let's flip this. Thank you for having us. And we went out there. It was 45,000 tickets sold. We went out there at 8:00 sharp. There was probably 35,000 people in the stadium, 45,000 by the time we ended, and we killed it. Okay, it was like they loved this kind of music. It was like we hit the mark. They were like, and I got 10,000 new Instagram followers.
Wow!
Within 45 minutes of that show,
cow.
We got a standing ovation in front of a stadium crowd. We killed it. And then Keith Richards walked out, played the first two chords of Start Me Up, and they killed us. There's nothing like that.
Goosebumps, man. That's awesome.
But they are as good a rock band right now as anybody who's ever decided to play rock and roll. And
Agreed.
It was astounding to watch. It was not just, it was inspiring. Mick, he's 81. And you're like, how? Keith and Ronnie, how? Steve Jordan on drums, unfortunately Charlie passed away, but Steve Jordan's doing a great job on the drums. Obviously he's a legend, play with Keith and the Expensive Winos and everything, and Chuck Lavelle on keys, and Daryl Jones on bass, and Carl Denson on saxophone. I was like, it's just, Bernard on singing, and it's just, it's unbelievable. And go see them. It's not like watching an act that is past their sell by. They're as good now as they've ever been.
And that's hard to find for sure. Joe, I need to flip the page here for a minute, and I want to talk about your work with Keeping the Blues Alive Foundation. What appeals to me most about Joe Bonamassa, honestly, is that you're always finding ways to give back. And the first of which is your mission to bring music instruments, sheet music, and other things to school students. Talk about that for a moment, would you please?
Well, we started the foundation 13 years ago, 14 years ago, and initially for what that was, for what you just described. Students, music, schools, money. And we had to pivot a little bit during the COVID years, and we started this thing within our foundation called Fueling Musicians. And it was just an idea my manager and I had. It's like, well, again, we've talked about my rise and the fact that I've, that moment in 2009 set me up for the rest of my life, and
yes.
and could have retired in 2020 and been fine. Just stop buying guitars and I'd be fine. And so with that said, we could have just sat there and just waited it out or not. But we decided that too many of our colleagues, peers, and people that we love and respect were struggling financially, that we needed to do something. So we got a lot of our Keeping the Blues Alive artists, our alumni from our cruises, everyone from Larkin Poe to you name it, everyone. There's too many to list, they would just film themselves at their house and they would do these songs. We do these 4-hour streamathons, and we'd raise hundreds of thousands of dollars in 4 hours. And our foundation total now, we've raised over $2 million, and we've raised over $2 million to for schools and for the COVID relief and everything, and so that was something that was really just. The thing I'm most proud of, and that's our foundation. And every dollar we raise, every dollar goes to something that's a good cause. Because if I don't give back, then I just feel like a miser, and I don't want to be a miser. I want to, I want my legacy to be like, well, he did well, but he gave back,
Yes, sir.
And I don't ask for thank you. I don't ask for credit. I don't bring it up if I don't have to. But if you don't give back, it's going to be really, there's something morally not right about it. And I get people coming to me all the time, random bands you've heard of. And hey, I signed up for that Keeping the Blues Alive check, and I got it right away, and it was cleared, didn't bounce. I'm like, cool. And that was, and I'm like, that's what it was for. And he was like, why did you do it? I said, because I could. And and that was it. And we gave away over $1 million in a year.
Wow.
Because it was like hundreds of people were signing up for it.
Yeah.
And we came up with $1,500 because the way I look at it is like keeping the blues alive pays you more than the U.S. government did.
Yeah. Well, and the other part of this, I mean, keep the Fueling the Musicians program was awesome. I happen to know a band that benefited. They signed up for it, and they're just so appreciative of what you did for them. The other thing that I want to talk about is KTVA Records. I mean, in my mind, one of the coolest ventures that you've undertaken. And on behalf of so many other blues fans out here, I want to say thank you for giving a hand up to the likes of my good friend Larry McCrae, Joanna Connor, Dion, Joanne Shaw Taylor, just to name a few. That
Robert
must
John
be
Lorek, Jimmy Hall. We've done a lot of records.
That's a labor of love, yeah?
It's a labor of love. And Larry McCrae he has no peers. Larry, I don't know of any Rust Belt, Detroit, Chicago blues shouter, singer like that can do that anymore. In the 80s, there was he had peers. Now he doesn't have any peers.
Right.
And he lives in a world that he created on his own. Nobody can do what he does. So why doesn't Larry? We were just asking ourselves, why isn't Larry McCrae recording? So we went up to Bay City, Michigan.
My hometown, baby. Yes, sir.
Went to his house. And we just started putting songs together. He had them all written. And we just were like, great. And I asked him, I said, you want to record in Nashville or Hollywood? He goes, Hollywood, babe. I'm like, let's go. And it's so much. We're doing a new album with him in September. And
excited to see it, man. Excited.
And it went from 1 year, in 1 year's time, he went from not working at all to working as much as he wanted to. And that's all I could do. And he thanked me. And I said, hey, you don't have to thank me. Like, I'm just, it wasn't a question of like, well, we're just doing this man a favor. Not doing him a favor at all. It's like what took the world in this business so long to just go, dude, let's make a real record with horns.
Right.
And let's do it right, because he's that talented and that special of a human. And his humility is inspiring. But then when he sits and when he plays and he sings, it's like bad intention.
Yeah.
And again, if you ask anybody about Larry McCrae, they go, oh my God, Larry McCrae is great. Okay. But I don't want the next question is like, whatever happened to him? I want him he needs to be a star. He is a star in this genre. And hell be it for me to not do whatever I can to get him where he needs to be and working as much or little as he wants. He could do whatever he wants.
You need to ask him to play his new version of Soul Shine, his new variation of it.
Yeah.
Got to hear it this summer, and oh my God. I told him he needs to put it on the new record.
Well, not a lot of people know that was the first time that song was recorded.
Yes.
Larry McCrae.
Yes.
Warren gave that song to Larry before the Allmans recorded it.
Yep.
And that was on his first album that was done on, I think, Point Blank. Because I remember having that record because I went to meet with Point Blank, aka Virgin Records, in the early 90s, like 91. And they go, here's the new artist. We signed Albert Collins, and we signed his new artist from Detroit named Larry McCrae. And I listened to Larry McCrae. Yeah. Wow. So I've known that man a long time.
Yeah.
And he's one of the OGs. And just, again, he doesn't have any peers.
Well, Joe, I was told I need to ask you about your newest venture. It's only been around for a few years, but I'd like to hear more about Journeyman LLC and your vision for this project. It's another giving back moment for you, isn't it?
No, it's not a giving back moment. It's a proof of concept. I'm the proof of concept. It's it's the ability to vertically integrate your business to where you're not reliant on agents and corporate people and things that stymie a lot of careers. So it's in-house concert promotion, in-house merchandise, in-house promotion, like marketing, in-house record making, everything under one roof. And it's vertically integrated business concept is what I've been doing. My manager and I've been doing for 20 years, and it works. I can tell you it works. And so that's Journeyman, and our two artists that we have on that venture is Robert John of the Wreck and Joanne Shaw Taylor. And my friend Joanne, we were talking the other day before I left for the tour, and she was like, like, for the first time in my career, I feel like I have the wind at my back. And I said, that's great. That's a great feeling. I can tell you exactly when I started to feel that. That was in 2006 and 2007. I got the wind in my back. I said, a couple more years, something's going to hit. And when it hits, get ready, because that's when you go, oh my God, this is way more work than I signed up. But she deserves it. And she's so talented and so good. And she's like my family. I mean, like, that woman is my family. And we've known each other 20 years, and she is my family. And she's the sister I never, like like my British sister that I never had. I have a sister, that's 4 years younger than me to the day. And Lindsay's, Lindsay's 4 years younger, and Joanne's a few years younger than Lindsay. But I look at her as like, she's like my family, and she's my British sister that I never had.
Joe, where can people find out more about your Keeping the Blues Alive Foundation, the KTBA cruises, which you haven't had a chance to talk about, your merchandise, your CDs, the whole schmeal, man?
Bonamassa.com answers all, and we'll sell you anything. We'll sell you cigar merchandise. We'll sell you beach balls, barbecue kits, garden gnomes, T-shirts.
There you go. Joe Bonamassa.
Guitar pedals.
I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart so much for your time today. I am especially appreciative for you allowing me to have my own Royal Albert Hall Clapton moment, because this truly was a thrill of a lifetime. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim. A really pleasure being on.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures with Jim Ervin. Again, our thanks to Joe Bonamassa for being here today, but also to you, our friends, fans, followers, and subscribers, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you that keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues one story at a time, that's my mission. Until next time, so long.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.